Peace, peace, peace. Once again, I'm Juice One, and this is Esoteric Daydreams, The Awakening, right? Where you can separate the daydream from the nightmare. You might not find the daydream to be that good. You might go, wait a minute, you think the nightmare was bad? Shoot, don't think you woke, but you just sleepwalking, and you just daydreaming. You know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, you know what I'm saying? I'm Juice One. I would like to tell you, please don't forget to check out my book, Street Scalzi Knock 'em Out the Box, which is available on Amazon Books and other reading platforms. Also, check out my book, pardon me here, right? Freemasonry and Johnny Worship, the second killing of Jesus, where it's basically, a condensed version of what we talk about on the show here, this esoteric hidden knowledge, right? So once you have this hidden knowledge, everything else should become clear, right? So my objective is to, we got the woke who was waking you up from the nightmare. My thing is to wake you up from the daydream as well, right? So you're fully conscious and fully aware of everything that's taking place, right? So don't forget, hit that like button. It ain't gonna bite you. It ain't gonna bite you hitting the like button. You just become, a subscriber. And once you become a subscriber, you hit the bell so you can get notified. And that's how that works. But anyway, let's get into this right here. Right? So, what I'm showing you here is how the British Empire, remember, we showed you with Danan, right? We showed you the forming of the House of Windsor through King James, right? Who put out the Book of Demonology, as well as, the King James version of the Bible, right? So you're learning this art, this magic that was put out to the world, right? Let me take this book down, right? So you're learning this. So now what we're doing is giving you an opportunity to see a world being constructed around you through written text. So we got Nikali Conti, right? So now we can take a few years, from that, and we'll go into Edmund Spencer, who again takes these wordings from Nikanti, right? Not saying him invented it, but we can compare it to what he's describing, and we can see it in real time with the writers that was coming out. So he's, somebody that's very important in this, right? So, The Fairy Queen is an English epic poem by Edmund Spencer. The Fairy Queen is notable for its form at over 36,000 lines and over 4,000 stanzas. It is one of the longest poems in the English language. It is also the work in which Spencer invented the verse form known as the Spencerian stanza. Right? On a literal level, the poem follows several nights as a means to examine different virtues. And through the text and though the text is primarily an allegorical work, it can also be read on several levels as allegories, including as praise or later criticism of who? Queen Elizabeth I, right? Who plays a very vital role in the structure of the satanic system, right? It's basically her who laid it down, right? The whole system is founded on her back, right? Queen Elizabeth I. And we'll get into that. Spencer letter to the authorities, he states that the entire epic poem is cloudily enwrapped in allegorical devices, and that the aim of publishing the Fairy Queen was to fashion a gentleman or noble person in virtuous and gentle discipline, right? So it's meant to groom these people into a certain type of way. And Spencer's letter to the authors, he states that the entire epic poem is cloudily enwrapped in allegorical devices, and that the aim of publishing the Fairy Queen was to fashion gentlemen and noble, right, person in various gentleman discipline. Book 1 is centered on the virtues of holiness and embodies the Red Rose Knight, a Red Cross Knight, and his lady Una travel together as he fights the monster area. Now we can think about the female knight in Game of Thrones, okay? Then travel separately after the wizard Archie-Go tricks the Red Cross Knight into thinking that Una is unchastised using a false dream. Book 2 is centered on the virtues of temperance as embodied in Sir Guyon, who is tempted by the fleeing Archmigo into nearly attacking the Red Cross Knight. Book 3 is centered on the virtues of chastity as embodied in Britan, a lady knight, right? Resisting after the events of Book 2, Guyon, then Arthur meets Britan, who wins a joust with Guyon. Right? Batamont reveals to the Red Rose Knight that she is pursuing Sir Artegal because she is destined to marry him. Britamont leaves and fights Sir Mornell. Arthur looks for Formanel, joined later by Sir Satanic and Britamont, and they witness the resist sexual temptation. And Britamont separates from them and meets Sir Scattermore looking for his captured lady, Amoret. Right? Now, so you can understand what was this information there for, right? The Fairy Queen was written during the formation, a time of religious and political controversy. After taking the throne following the death of her half sister, Mary, right? Elizabeth changed the official religion of the nation to Protestantism. This matters, right? Because this would be basically the wolf in sheep's clothing for Freemasonry and taking down Christianity. The plot of Book 1 is similar to Fox's Book of Martres, which was about the persecution of the Protestant and how Catholic rule was unjust. Right, so now we see this satanic system, right? Remember, we're talking about building this world. right? Spencer includes the controversy of Elizabeth's church reform within the epic. Glorian has godly English knights destroyed Catholic continental powers in books 1 and 5. Spencer also endows many of his villains with the worst of what Protestants considered a superstitious Catholic reliance on deceptive images. Again, if we took this side by side, what Nikao Conti was saying, we should begin to see a formation here, right? Galligan has godly English knights destroyed Catholic continental power in book 1 and 5. Spencer also endows many of his villains with the worst of what Protestants considered a superstitious Catholic reliance on deceptive images. So everything that the Catholics was against, they used, right, in their negative. So when we look at TV and you see how, black people are portrayed on the TV, understand, this is the art. So, you're not supposed to be taking, especially your children. You should not let, the youth indulge in TV on their own. Like, it should be family night. Y'all watching it and you talking and breaking down the show. Not like fully, but like, if you see them laughing or whatever, like, oh, you think that, and give some insight. You know what I'm saying? Be insightful. Politics. The poem celebrates, memorializes and critiques the house of Tudor. Now remember, we just did the house of my fault. Tudor is where it came out of. My fault. We just did this. My fault. My fault. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm really, you know what it is? I've been compiling so much into this that it threw my mind for a loop here for a second. Right. Oh, House of Windsor. I didn't even once I just pulled up the picture, I already knew where what I was talking about. Right. So the same way you see the construction in the House of Windsor, right? Pardon me here. Right. So you see the construction in the House of Windsor, right? It's the same way we see, right, this construction. My fault, is this the right one? Okay. The construction and the Tudors, right? So this is where it begins per se, not to say at the beginning, but where one of its foundations was laid down, right? Okay, so then it goes vigils, Adian celebrates Augustus Rome, right? So remember, Augustus is, August, right? And that was the last of that, right? So the poem, house of and much of as vigils, right? So they taken from the completion of, basically the Roman Empire, and starting from there claiming its downfall, right? So the Adian states that Augustus depended from the noble sons of Troy. Similarly, the Fiera Queen suggests that the Tudor lineage can be connected to King Arthur. So as you see, they take these stories and connect themselves to it. Just like we said, the British Empire, which is this again, connecting itself to the Bible, right? The poem is deeply allegorical and elusive. Many prominent Elizabethans could have found themselves partially represented by one or more of Spencer's figures. The world of Fairy Queen is based on English Arthurian legend. So we see again this where they're building this off of. But much of the language, spirit, and style of the piece draws more on Italian epic, particularly Ludovico Aristio, Orlando Florencio, and these are just these long names, right? So anyway, the poem is deeply allegorical and elusive. Many of the prominent Elizabethans could have found themselves partly represented by one of the more Spencered figures. Elizabeth herself is the most prominent example. She appears in the guise of Glorian, the Fairy Queen, but also in books 3 and 5 as the Virgin Bethlehem, daughter of Chestrian, the twins to Amaret, an embodiment of womanly married love, perhaps also more critical. Elizabeth is seen in book 1 as Luciferia. So when we see, now mind you, this is a character that is made up, that is derived off of Lucifer, right? The maiden queen who brightly lit course of pro-mass and dungeon full of prisoners. Right? So it goes politics. Lucifera, a daughter of Greek god Pluto, intended by Spencer and the Fairy Queen. So Pluto being Satan, this is his daughter, right? So as we can see, the satanic system is being constructed right in front of your eyes, man. You can't be blind, okay? Politics. The poem also displayed Spencer's thought through familiarity with literary history. The world of the Fairy Queen is based on English Arthurian legend. Book 5 of the Fairy Queen, the Book of Justice, is Spencer's most direct discussion on political theory. In it, Spencer attempts to tackle the problem of policy towards Ireland, right? And recreates the trial of Mary, Queen of Scots. So these, when we say Ireland and we talking about the Danube, right? The goddess, and we understand, this construction and, how Ireland is, considered, basically the foundation of the British Isles. Right? Archetypes. Some literary works sacrifice historical context to archetypical myth, reducing poetry to biblical quest. Whereas Spencer's reinforces the actuality of his story by adhering to archetypical patterns. Throughout the Fairy Queen, Spencer does not concentrate on a pattern which transcends time, but uses such a pattern to focus the meaning of the past on the present by reflecting on the past. Spencer achieves ways of stressing the importance of Elizabeth's reign. In turn, he does not convert events into myths, but myths into events. Pay attention to that, because that's how they're breaking down this magic. Within the Fairy Queen, Spencer blurs the distinction between archetypal and historical elements deliberately. Right? Symbolism and illusion. Throughout the Fairy Queen, Spencer creates a network of allusions to events, issues, and particularly persons in England and Ireland, including Mary, Queen of Scots, the Spanish Armada, and the English Reform, and over the Queen herself. It also is known that James V of Scotland read the poem and was very insulted by Orchisius, a very negative depiction of his mother, Mary, Queen of Scots. Right? This is a whole story, because you got to understand this is following, the women. This whole system is creating this system for them. So he just felt like, yo, you're not painting my mother in a good light. Within the text, both Fiery Queen and Baphomet serve as two of the many personification of Queen Elizabeth, some of which are far more complimentary. Right? Forgive me, it's like these small texts. I didn't realize how small the text was. Okay. Symbolism and illusion. Through the pleasures of her though it praised her in some way, the Fiery Queen questions Elizabeth's ability to rule so effectively because of her gender, and also inscribed in the historian of her rule. My fault. Scribes the shortcomings of her rule. Pardon me there. There is a character named Bridget, who represents married chastity. The characters told her destiny to be in a mortal wound. See, that's very important. So I'm mad that me reading this so wrong. The character named the character named Britamore, who represents Mary Chastity, this character is told that her destiny is to be an immortal womb. Now, if you know, she didn't have any children. To have children here, Spencer is referring to Elizabeth's unmarried state, and through of anxiety of the 1590s about what would happen after her death, since the kingdom had no heirs. Right, so this was the deal, and it was you got to remember, her and I believe another one of her sisters couldn't have Nat, because the father was saying that they were illegitimate, and this was like the whole resolution. Like, this was how they resolved that thing, and so this is how we got down to her not having any children. The Fairy Queen, original audience would have been able to identify many of the poem characters by analyzing the symbols and attributes that spot Spencer's texts. For example, readers would immediately know that a woman who wears a scarlet cloth and resides alongside the Tiber River represents the Roman Catholic Church. So, within it, as they read it, they know what are these things referencing to. Symbolism and illusions, right? However, marginal notes jotted in early copies of the Fairy Queen suggest that Spencer contemporaries were unable to come to a consensus about the process historical referment of the poem's Madrid figures. Other symbols prevalent in the Fairy Queen are the numerous animal characters present present in the poem. They take a role of visual figures in the allegory and the illustrative similes and metaphors. Specifically, examples including the swine presented in Luciferia's castle, who embodied gluttony, and Deceiver, a deceitful crocodile who may represent Queen Mary, Queen of Scots, in a negative light. So you see how these characters, right, are. The dictorial page of the 1590s edition of Spencer's Fairy Queen, reading, "To the most mighty and magnificent Empress Elizabeth, by the grace of God, Queen of England, France, and Ireland, defender of the faith in country." The poem is dedicated to Elizabeth, Elizabeth I, who is represented in the poem as the Fairy Queen Gloridine, as well as the character Belphobie. These names, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, on the 25th of February, 1591. Look at the dates now, right? The Queen gave him a pension of £50 per year. He was paid in full installments on the 25th of March, the 24th of June, the 29th of September, and the 25th of September. After the first three books of the Fairy Queen were published in 1590, Spencer found himself disappointed in the monarchy. Among other things, the annual pension from the Queen was smaller than he would have liked. In his hysterious perception of Queen's Court was shattered by what he saw there. Book 6 stresses that there is almost no correlation between noble deeds and low birth, and reveals that to be a noble person, one must be a gentleman of choice stock. Throughout the Fairy Queen, virtue is seen as a feature for the noble born, and within book, let's say 6, readers encounter worthy deeds that indicate aristocratical lineage. Social commentary. Likewise, audience acknowledge that young Tritrium speaks so well and acts so heroically that Calidor frequently contributes him with the noble birth, even before learning his background. In fact, it is no surprise that Tritrium turns out to be the son of a king, explaining his profound intellect. However, Spencer's most particular example of noble birth and determined demonstration through the characterization of the salvage man. Using the salvage man as an example, Spencer demonstrated that ungainly appearances do not disqualify one from noble birth. By giving the salvage man a frightening exterior, Spencer stresses that various deeds are a more accurate indication of gentle blood than physical appearance. Social commentary. On the opposite side of the spectrum, the fairy queen indicates qualities such as cowardice and dishonesty that signifies low birth. During his initial encounter with Arthur, Turnpin hides behind his retainer's choice ambush from behind instead of direct combat, and cowers to his wife, who covers him with her villainous skirt. These actions demonstrate that Valpine is mortally emasculated by fear, and furthermore, the usual social roles are reversed as the lady protects the knight from danger. So scholars believe this characterization serves as a negative example of knighthood and strives to teach Elizabethan aristocrats how to identify as commoners with politician ambition and appropriate to his ranks. And so we can see that, like I said, even when you look at the TV shows, the especially ones for the kids, right? You'll see, the man being more cowardly, you know what I'm saying, and hiding behind the woman. So these are the little pieces and bits that you'll notice implemented throughout literature. I mean, of entertainment, right? Medieval subject matter. The fairy queen owes in part its central figure's author to medieval writers, God Geoffrey of Monmouth. In his Prophecies of Merlin, Godfrey Merlin proclaims that the Saxons will rule over the Britons until the Boar of Cornwall. Arthur again restores them to their rightful place as rulers. The prophecy was adopted by the Welsh and eventually used by the Tudors. Though their ancestors owned Tudor, the Tudors had Welsh blood, through which they claimed to be descendants of Arthur, the rightful ruler of Britain. So you see how they making these claims. The tradition began by Geoffrey of Monmouth, set the perfect atmosphere for Spencer's choice of authors as the central figure and natural bridegroom of Glorienia, right? And so that concludes this section of it, right? Which is the forming of the. Hold on a minute. Let me go back here. The Luciferian system. Remember, all we're doing is showing how the structure is constantly added on through time. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a slow process that is constantly built on through philosophers and philosophy and psychology. And these things are used and given out to the people and the masses through the universities, to the youth, right? And they're given this, and this is how you formulate a new system. And it's usually, I see in America, it seems like it happens every 20 years. Like every 20 years, you'll notice these new splinters popping up. Nonetheless, you know what I'm saying? This is esoteric daydreams where, the woke already woke you up from the nightmare Christianity. I'm trying to wake you up from the daydream of Satanism that's been hiding in the background of your nightmares. So they've been controlling your nightmares for quite a long time now. And you're enjoying the daydream. It's time to wake up. Don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you can be notified whenever new content is uploaded or we go live just like now. And by the way, don't forget to check out my book, Street Skelzy, Knock 'em Out the Box, available on Amazon Books, because there's no robbery and fair exchange. If you like the information you got here, as you see, I don't ask for donations, but if you want to support the channel, here's how you do it. Purchase a book, give it to somebody. If you're not into novels, if you're more into the stuff that's being talked about on the show, check out one of my new books right now that's out also on Amazon. It's called Freemasonry and Yanni Worship, the second killing of Jesus, where it's just a condensed version of all of this information that we talk about here. Stay tuned. We got more coming up for you. Until next time, hold it down and peace.